mathematical operation, it would be the last operation performed. In this case, this line, the last operation you would perform would be a division. So that would be its main logical operator. Does everybody understand that? Over here, you would have to do that first, and then the last operation you would perform, calculating the answer, would be the addition. So this main logical operator would be addition. Does everybody understand that? Okay? All right, so I'm going to do some of the homework here. I'll do the odd ones. And I'll ask you to tell me whether you think it's a well-formed formula. That means it's perfectly clear. And if it's not, we say it's not a well-formed formula. And then if it is a well-formed formula, what the main logical operator is, okay? So suppose we have not z. Is that a well-formed formula? Yes, it is, okay? And the main logical operator is the only operator, and so we would say that this is a negation. And by the way, if we had z, that would be a well-formed formula, and there would be no logical operator, okay? All right, so now let me look at 3. So 3 says not z or q, okay? Now, is that a well-formed formula? Will we know how to calculate our answer? Well, everything is ordered for us by way of the parentheses. We would do this first, and then we would negate it. So we would say that this is a well-formed formula. And if we think about the math, the last operation we perform, if we were calculating its truth value, it would be the negation. So this is a well-formed formula with the negation being the main logical operator. That was 3, right? So I'm on to 5. 5 is not z or q then p. Is it a well-formed formula? Well, I think that it is, because the brackets tell us we do this operation first. Not z, we always do the negations immediately first, and then the last operation we would do would be this. So we know the operations that we would do, that's clear. So this would be a well-formed formula. The last operation we perform would be the or, so this would be a disjunction. So number 5 would be a well-formed formula that happens to be a disjunction. 3, 5, 7. 7 is not z or q then p. Is this a well-formed formula? Well, yes, I think I could figure out the order of operations. First, I would do this in the brackets, then I would negate it, and the last thing I do is be a then p. So that's completely clear to me. So that's a well-formed formula, and I just said the last operation I would perform would be the conditional, so this would be a well-formed formula with the main logical operator of conjunction. Okay. Number 9. I have bracket, not z, or q, then p, all in brackets. All right. Do I know the order operations here? Well, I would have to do this first, then I would negate the not z, and then I would OR these two things together. That's perfectly clear. So it's a well-formed formula. And the last operation would be the disjunction, so the main logical operator would be a disjunction. So that's number 9, okay? 10, 11, okay? 11, not z, then not p or q. Let me see, do I know how I would calculate this? I would do this first, then I would negate it, and then I would negate the z, and the last thing I would do would be this. So yes, it is a well-formed formula. What's the last thing I would do? This conditional, so the main operator is a conditional. Okay. Let me do 12. Not horseshoe, S or T. Okay. it should be obvious to you that this is not a well-formed formula. It would be equivalent, mathematically speaking, to someone saying plus divide 7 minus 3 or something to that effect. And you would say, well, wait a minute, I need something to the left of this logical operator and something to the right of it. Does everybody understand that? So this would not, 13 would not be a well-formed formula. And therefore, there is no main logical operator, okay? So now I'm on to 13, and this one is a little bit tricky, okay? So 13, we have H and P, or V if and only if F, then Z, okay? So if I were calculating this, I would work from inside the brackets out, so I'd have to do this operation, I'd have to do that operation, and then I have this operator and that operator left over. But remember, we have no order of operations, so I don't know whether I should do this first, or if I should do this operation first, then, and then do the or. So since it's ambiguous, this is not a well-formed formula, and there is no main logical operator.
I have a question.
Yes?
How do we mark on the paper is not?
Well, on the homework paper, there's a box,
I see it.
right? And you just tick that box, okay? And on the test, there'll be something similar, okay? So 13. 13, H and P.
I should just did 13.
Okay, well, that would, it looked familiar. So how about I try 15? We have a negation, and then we have a big bracket thing, H and P, or bracket V if and only if F, then Z, this, and this. Okay, so we'd have to work from inside the brackets out to calculate. This would be the innermost thing that we do that. And then since this is contained in here, we'd have to do this operation. And then we'd have to take this operation and OR it with, do this, because it's in the brackets first, and then do an OR. But then, after we did the OR, the very last thing would be negation. Okay, so we can see the order of operations. So it's a well-formed formula, and the main logical operator would be a negation. Okay, was that 15?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll draw your attention to 14. 14 looks very similar to 15, but there's an important difference. If you notice on 14, yeah, we can see the negation outside of the big bracket, which seems to say, well, we'll negate the whole thing, right? But inside the brackets, notice that we don't know whether we're supposed to do that OR operation or the if-then operation first, because there's no parentheses telling us which operation to do first. So 14 is rather tricky. It's not a well-formed formula, right? And so there's no main logical operator. Okay, 17. So 17, suppose we have G and we have K and or M, okay? Well, suppose that someone gave us a mathematical statement that said 3 blank 4 divide 17. Well, we'd say, I don't know what you want me to do because I need to know what you want me to do with the 3 and the 4. Does everybody understand that? It's missing an operator in the same way this one is missing an operator. So it's not a well-formed formula, and therefore there is no main logical operator. That was 17. That takes me to 19. Okay. As a rule, you can't have stacked logical operators. You can't have something like this, A and then C. That makes no sense whatsoever. Does everybody understand that? The only time you can have one operator after another is, for example, suppose I have A and not C. That's okay because the not, we know, always attaches first immediately what's to its right. Does everybody understand that? So here we have two operators in a row, and here not really, right? So this would be unacceptable, would not be a well-formed formula, but this one would be, okay? So negations can be stacked up with other operators, including this. This is a well-formed formula, not A. That's perfectly acceptable because we know that we're gonna not A, okay? Okay, so that takes us to 19. We have not Q or X. So what we know is we would not the Q and we not the not Q. And then because this not is contained over here, we would not the not Q. And then we do the or. So I know the order of operations. It is a well-formed formula. And the main logical operator would be the or. Okay, and contrast that with 20. Notice that the parentheses are located different. The closing parentheses is outside of the last X, which means you have to do all that stuff first before you do that final negation. Okay, so that's one thing that you'll have to be doing on the test. So you'll be doing translations. You'll be doing, is this a substitution instance of an argument form? And on the test, yeah, you will have some, is this a well-formed formula or not? And if so, what's the main logical operator, okay? The one thing that we have left to do, though, is more translations, okay? So far, you're responsible for the homework section 2.1, 2.2, we skipped 2.3, and 2.4 that you're accountable for, and also 2.5, which I'm going to go over, and I'm going to explain some things to you.